On this episode of Where's the Line, me and Joseph are going to take a look at Vanderbilt versus Florida, and then we're going to take a look ahead at Tennessee versus Texas A&M and Vanderbilt, Georgia. Gambling tips, picks are at the end. This is episode number 101. Let's get into it.
You are now listening to the Where's the Line podcast with Joseph West and Britt Dillard. Enjoy the show.
Milton gonna take a shot wide open and just strutting in is Keaton. Joe Milton does it again.
Orgy again on a blitz. Levis pocket collapses. He's on the run. He just heaves it up. And it's intercepted by Vanderbilt. And let the celebration begin. The streak is over at 26. The Commodores win it.
Talk about Vanderbilt football. All I gotta say, and you're going to hell. Bye.
Another edition of Where's the Line. It is Tuesday, October 10th. This is episode number 101. My name is Britt Dillard. I'm joined here by Joseph West. How are you today, Joseph?
It's episode 101. Britt, could you hear that? Please say yes.
No.
Okay, that's really good. I just played Zoe 101 intro, which if you didn't watch that when you was a kid, like you probably didn't have an older sister like me and Britt did. Britt, I'm doing good. It is Tuesday evening. We're here. Another weekend of college football has come and gone, which is either really sad or you're happy that the season's almost over, or at least more than halfway. It just depends on who you're a fan of. So Britt, how are you?
Doing good, yeah. We are here. I'll start by saying that. But yeah, the season is halfway over. I've only got 3 more home games to attend. I will not be at the UConn game for Tennessee, but we're alive. That is a positive. The weather was beautiful today.
I have breaking news.
Okay, let's go.
Here's the breaking news. First of all, Britt, the weather was beautiful. I did want to comment on that. Weather, it's peak fall weather. Great take there by Britt. Second of all, I have breaking news that everyone knows. I was at the first 6 Vanderbilt games, because I'm like that, and or I'm sorry, first 5. Hold on, what's our record right now?
You're 2-5.
Okay, yeah, no, I was at the first 6. The only game I haven't been to is the game in the Swamp. I'll be at that game this upcoming weekend. But breaking news is, I have been foretold that I will be in Knoxville when Vanderbilt takes on the Commodore. When the Vols take on the Commodores.
I thought that was just a given.
That was not a given. Most people assume I'm that crazy, but I really wasn't going to pay that much money, and now I'm going to have an opportunity to go.
So that means me and you will be fellowshipping at Cool Beans. That's what
we will be fellowshipping at Cool Beans. I will also be at the Tennessee and Georgia game. I will be fellowshipping with you at Cool Beans. That is breaking news to you, I know. I will be fellowshipping at Cool Beans with my fellow, my friends who are Vols fans. I almost said my fellow Vol fan friends. Whichever way, I guess. But
did you have that? Did you have that ticket given to you?
I did have that ticket given to me, actually.
Oh, is it your boss?
It is not. It was not. No.
Oh,
it was
okay.
not my boss. I'm not going to out who gave it to me, but just know I've been given a ticket.
Well, that's very, very nice.
And just know I will be barking at Georgia fans.
It checks out. I don't think we've talked since the episode 100. I really don't think we've talked. I did drop in on you at the local spot, but
the local spot, BB's Bistro. If you live here in Smith County, even if you don't live in Smith County, go to BB's Bistro and get some wings, buffalo. They're amazing. They're the best wings you'll ever eat. I love them. I could eat 24 of them. Go eat them.
Do
There's
they
BB's
have
plug.
other? Do they have other rubs you
They
can?
do. They do. They have a Nashville hot. I think they have a
Oh,
regular.
it's
I think they have a regular hot as well. And they may have a few other sauces. I always get buffalo, so I really like their buffalo sauce for that.
Nashville hot is garbage.
Nash,
That's the
Nashville
worst.
hot. Nashville hot can be really good. My biggest pet peeve about Nashville hot is it's different everywhere you go. So like some places at Nashville hot I like, and then other places I don't like it, or it's too hot, like it'll kill you when you eat it. I would prefer not to die while I'm eating. But enough about how much I weigh and how much I like to eat, and let's just get straight into the beef, the meat of the episode. Vanderbilt took on the Florida Gators this past weekend in the swamp. Um, it's what honestly I think I expected from this team in the swamp. Um, Ken Seals did trot out as the starter, which was I guess really the only question was who was going to start at quarterback. Um, Florida did win this game 38-14. Um, Looking at the box score, when you just look at the stats, it doesn't seem like that's how it played out. But I'm kind of going to let Britt start us off here. What does he got to say about the Doors and maybe the Gators?
Yeah, game 2 of the Ken Seals experience for the 2023 season.
Bet, baby. Love you, Ken.
Vanderbilt dropped their 5th straight, their 3rd SEC game, I believe. Some takeaways I thought Graham Mertz looked efficient, especially on the stat sheet, 30 for 36, over 350 yards. Florida's defensive line, I think, has kind of separated themselves as a very solid unit, not only in the SEC but in the nation. I mean, they only had 2 sacks and 6 tackle for loss, but they were able to hold Vanderbilt to very few rushing yards. I believe they had less than 50, unless I'm mistaken. So Florida, they're better than I thought. I think they may be on par with what a lot of national people might have thought, just kind of a middle of the pack SEC team. But I came out of this game still thinking about Vanderbilt more than Florida. And it's really the same narrative that me and you both have had for Vanderbilt is a lack of utilizing your playmakers. I mean, Will Shepherd was able to get, if I can pull up a box score here, he had 3 catches for over 100 yards, had 107 yards and a touchdown, but one of those 3 catches was for 85 yards. That's your best player, one of a top 5-ish SEC receiver. He's got to have more than 3 receptions. He's got to have more than 3. And I mean, I know that you've got a quarterback in Ken Sills that you weren't planning on utilizing, but it's just a guy you've got to get the ball in his hands more. And it's frustrating for Vanderbilt because through these first 7 games, these were outside of the Auburn game coming up in a few weeks. These first 7 were all winnable, especially coming into the season. These were 7 that Tennessee that Vanderbilt could have won all 7 of these in some world. So that's frustrating. You've got Georgia next week. So there's not much hope. But there's definitely some blame to go around in the coaching room.
Yeah, I agree. To cap off kind of what Britt was saying, Vanderbilt got the ball to start this game, had a quick little drive there, took about 2 minutes, got to the 50. We ended up punting. We punted all the way down to Florida 6. They then had a 94-yard touchdown drive all the way down the field. They scored in 3 minutes. Our defense did nothing. They drove right down the field. Britt just talked about it. On our first drive, we throw our 85-yard touchdown pass to Will Shepherd. Great catch, great balance against the sideline, takes it down all the way to the crib to make the game 7-7. Shortly after that, Florida decides when they get down in Vanderbilt's territory after doing whatever they wanted, Billy Napier decided that he was, or I'm sorry, I actually apologize. That's the next drive. I got a little ahead of myself in my notes here. In the second drive, Florida marches down, scores a, wait, I've got to be off in my notes here.
That's okay. It was a
Yeah.
frustrating game.
My notes are apparently everywhere. Let's see. Okay, yeah, in Florida gets the ball. Florida punts their second drive. We get the ball back. Um, don't do much. We end up punting. And then Florida. No, I'm sorry, we don't. I'm everywhere. Let me get right. Let me just quote off pure memory. I'm putting the phone down, looking right into the camera. We're gonna get right here. Basically, what happened is Florida's second drive, they went 94 yards. They get all the way down to Vanderbilt's territory, right inside the 50, and Billy Napier decides our offense is moving the ball whatever they want to do, but we're going to call a halfback pass. And they halfback pass one deep, and CJ Taylor stays with them, picks it off. We then drive down the field. We go for it on fourth down from the 45. Quincy Skinner picks up the first down and is down, but fumbles, and somehow it's a fumble. I really still don't know how. I thought his calf was clearly down, but it apparently wasn't. We fumble, and honestly, after that, it was pretty brutal. I mean, that's just kind of how it was. Vanderbilt had a few other chances to capitalize. Ken Seals threw a deep ball to Junior Sherrill, a 52-yard pass. He threw it a little behind him. And he kind of had to slow down, or he threw it a little short. He had to slow down to catch it. And he didn't score a touchdown. He got to the 10-yard line, I believe. And then we went for it on fourth and goal and didn't score. I say all that to just kind of quote the first half to say that this easily could have been a game where Vanderbilt had 28 points in the first half. I mean, if Ken Seals doesn't overthrow Quincy Skinner on that fourth and goal, it's a touchdown. I mean, it's a score. If Quincy Skinner doesn't fumble on that fourth down play, Vanderbilt probably at least gets a field goal or maybe gets a touchdown. You're looking at it, Vanderbilt has 17 points here, and it's a totally different game. And that's what's sad when I'm looking at this team is that I see a lot of little things that have just added up to Vanderbilt looking really bad, really poor, not even competitive in games. I had to really sit back this week. I've been too sad to even go back and watch games more than once and just really break them down. But so this weekend, I had some self-reflection, and I decided I've got to get in depth with this football team. I have to understand why we're bad so I can progress. First of all, let me say this. Success is not linear. Anyone ever heard that before? Success does not just go straight up.
That's true.
There's going to be hills. There's going to be valleys. Okay? And I say that to say I would like to take something back, if I may, if everyone will forgive me for not being a man of my word. Clark Lee is currently the best option for Vanderbilt. Does that mean that what we have seen is acceptable? Of course not. But with what it is right now, you're in year 3. This is his dream job. He won't leave. All the things you heard me say when I was building him up are still relevant, right? You still got to clean house with the coordinators. But I had to get that off my chest. I wanted to make sure I didn't forget to give some shout outs. I'm going to give some shout outs to some guys who played better this week. O-line and pass protection, much better. Thought the O-line had a really good game in pass pro. Also, Britt talked about Florida's defensive line. Vanderbilt hasn't had a 100-yard rusher yet this year. I would say it's less about Florida and more about how bad Vanderbilt's offensive line is as far as rushing the ball. We had 66 rushing yards in this game against Florida. It's just it's just frustrating because when I look at the box score and I see we had 340 total yards, they had 490. Like, yeah, that's a pretty big difference, but it's not 38-14 different. Like, we still drove the ball up and down the field. We just couldn't convert when we needed to. It sucks, but it's just kind of where we're at. And, this game was, like I said, what I thought it would be at this point. I think if you're a Vanderbilt fan listening to this, what I want you to hold on to is hold on to Whit Edwards, hold on to Dante Carter, 2 guys who Vanderbilt usually don't get, top 300 players in the nation. Okay, hold on to those guys. That's why I think you have to have faith in Clark Lee. When you look at the recruiting, what they're doing on the recruiting trail, they're looking 2-10 in the face. And they just had a top 220 player commit to him. Like, that's saying something about whether our NIL stepped up, whether the coaches are actually just that good on the recruiting trail. I don't really know, but I can tell you that guys are committing to us when we're staring 2-10 in the face, and that means something. I don't know how much it means to me, because ultimately, even if you recruit well, you still got to coach them. So I think moving forward, I'm going to try to be very calm after games and really break them down. But this was just some notes I made during the game. I tried to stay very active during the game. First of all, Vanderbilt needs to change their defensive scheme. Excuse me. Screw the 4-2-5. Screw it. I hate it. It's garbage. Tennessee fans, you should be very familiar with the 4-2-5. It sucks. It sucks for Vanderbilt. We're not big enough to be rushing 3 and 4 guys. We need more guys on the line of scrimmage. Like, we need 4 at all times. And if you bring an extra guy up, I would be happy with that. I don't care how bad the secondary is. Just get pressure on the quarterback. Number 2, and this is going to be my most hit on point of the whole entire game. Stop with the putting guys in because they hustle. These guys are real hustlers. They're real guys who do the right things. I don't care. They're white, coach. They're white. Get the white dudes at linebacker off the field. I'm so tired of seeing tight end flat routes and running backs out to the flat for 15 and 20-yard gains just because our white-ass linebacker can't stay with him. Drag him off the field. Get the white dude off the field. You have a freak athlete, Bryce Cowan, sitting behind Ethan Barr, sitting behind Nick Rinaldi. And they're just not getting to play. I just don't get it.
I just want to say I do not stand behind taking out players because of their race. I just want to say that.
Yeah. I don't normally, but I will right now, because get Ethan Barr and Nick Rinaldi off the field. You just have to have a guy quick enough to cover the running back and the tight ends. And specifically in this game, the tight end. Florida ran the same play 6 times. That's just how many I counted. 6 times they ran the same play, and it was at least a 9-yard gain every time. We could never stop it. It's just because our dudes simply weren't quick enough. Ken Seals at times was throwing the ball with conviction, like absolutely roping them in there. But they're not running the same offense that we were running with AJ Swan, and that's frustrating. If you're going to let Ken Seals start, run the same damn offense. Make him make the same throws that AJ Swan was trying to make. Like, I know you said you wanted to turn the ball over less, but you can't be explosive and turn the ball over less. And Lee said he wanted us to do both. That's not how that works, coach. You can't be more explosive and turn the ball over less. Most time when you're trying to make explosive plays, you're going to turn the ball over more. I hope that wasn't too loud. I'm sorry, I just died. Clark went for it on 4th down several times. I believe 3 is what I have. I really liked the aggressiveness. This team won't win games if they don't capitalize when we're being aggressive. They just won't. That's just how it is. Yeah. We picked up a 4th down. Quincy fumbled. I already covered that. Cedric Alexander dropped a screen pass on the first drive of the game, and he had days to run. Absolute days. So that's frustrating. But basically, all in all, this team isn't good enough to get away with more than one mistake a game. And right now, they're having 5 or 6 of them, and that's why you're seeing us get blown out. Frankly put, this team isn't that good. The coaches don't put our players in the best position to succeed, especially defensively. And right now, I made this stat. I just wanted everyone to know. If I was having to blame coaches to players, I would put 65% of the blame on the coaches, 35% on the players. That's where I think I lie.
Going back to you talking about Clark Lee being the best guy available, recruiting is a big deal. I mean, when you get a top 300 player, basically just off of selling vision, that's tough to do, and that's a good pickup for Vanderbilt. I think at this point, him firing and replacing coordinators is the bare minimum. Like, he doesn't get any credit anymore for firing those guys. Now, if he did it,
I agree.
If he did it last year, at this time last year, then okay, we see that there's an effort being made, and and him realizing that his butt's on the line with these guys since he is the head coach, he is the caretaker of the program. So you said there's hills and valleys with success, but I mean, really, it's all been valley and one small little hill. So
Yeah.
I don't want you to get too sunshine about Clark Lee and just ultimately crash down harder. Because
No, I don't think right now, I don't think there is sunshine. I just think this is the only logical way to look at it is that, listen, Vanderbilt is still out talented. That's obvious. But Vanderbilt has better athletes on this team than I've seen them have in my life, probably. At least since the Franklin years, right? Like, yeah, not in my life, since the Franklin years. This is the best set of athletes we've had on a team. Just due to when you go see them after the game or before the game at the Star Walk, like you're like, man, those dudes are big. They're just bigger than they were a few years ago. Like we're just a little bit bigger. I think that means something. I also think that because of the way Vanderbilt works, I already talked about how we don't have a business undergrad, how we can't go get 20 transfers, that building through high school recruiting is key, and he's doing it at least a little. And we have right now a top 45 recruiting class, I believe. So you're looking at top 45, by the way, for Vanderbilt is pretty damn good. We've only been top 30 like a few times, I think 3. So like 45 is pretty damn good. But the point being that I don't think there's any sunshine to pump here. I just think that you give Lee one more year, you say fire the coordinators, fire the position guys that need to go, hire them, hire the guys you need, but you're pretty much telling him, listen, if you don't exceed expectations in year 4, you're gone. You can't just meet them. You got to exceed them. And that would be, and I mean, I think postseason is the only way to judge that. I think he's got to find a way to win 6 next year. And if he finds a way to win 6 next year, it would have been like winning 9 this year because the schedule next year is brutal.
yeah, I guess my question would be, yes, recruiting is better and the roster seems to have improved, but do we trust Clark Lee to utilize talent? I mean, Will Shepherd, let's be honest, is the best player that Clark Lee will have at Vanderbilt. Will Shepherd is the best player he'll have, and he doesn't use him.
Yeah, I think that I will say that although it's coaches speak, and I've actually been his biggest critic on Twitter, he's starting to call out, we have to get the ball to Will Shepherd more. We have to get the ball to Jaden McGowan more. Or he said, I would like to see us get the ball to Will and Jaden more. That's very true. But at the end of the day, like in my car, I was sitting there thinking, Clark, you're the head coach.
Yeah.
I can say I would like if Vanderbilt would get the ball to Will Shepherd more, but I have no influence on the team. So
Yeah,
of
it's like the
course I can say
president.
that.
That's like the president saying teachers should get paid more.
Yeah, like, dude, do something. Put something into action. And you know what? Looking back at how this all started was Clark Lee made a bad hire. He tried to hire David Raw or Ray or whatever his name was to be the OC. Turns out dude was a bozo. We had to promote Joey Lynch to OC. And Joey Lynch, you couldn't really judge him in year 1 because we didn't have anybody good on the whole damn team outside of a few guys that you know now, like Will Shepherd. And then in last year, you saw some progression, but dude, he's running a bad system. You can't succeed in the system that we're running. That RPO offense cannot win at Vanderbilt. It's sad and it's just frustrating that we're here. Just where we are in terms of you thought this year was going to be at least you were going to be competing for a bowl, even if you weren't going to make one. And now you're looking at basically 2-10 dead in the face and saying, we pretty much know what our future is for this year. You got to hope it gets better. You'll have a new section in your stadium done next year. The full season or the full stadium will be done by 2025. So at least things are looking up there. If not, I already have some coaches I've got an eye on. So, I'll help Vanderbilt in the firm search if it comes to that.
I think you go ahead and start looking.
It could. And like I said, I don't think necessarily like there's been a lot of fans that I've talked to and they're calling for Clark Lee's head, and I'm not mad at them. I'm not mad at them one bit. I mean, shoot, for a week and a half, I was calling for Clark's head. But when I sat back, looked at it, I said, we're going to have some good recruits coming in. I think he's finally going to kick guys off the team, which he has to do. I hate it that you can be a scumbag And you can tell somebody, man, you're going to come here, you're a 4-star, you're going to come here, be a great player. And 2 years in, they don't turn out just like you thought they would. And you say, sorry, man, we're pulling your scholarship. You got to go. I think that is scum. But other teams, now every team is doing it. We're by ourselves. We
Yeah.
are by ourselves not doing it, right? So in order to make it fair, you're just going to have to be scum. And that's the part that I don't know if Clark's got it in him. I don't know if Clark can be a bad guy. Finally, he started chewing out the refs. He's been demanding respect. He did it in the Florida game. He did it in the Kentucky game. He has to keep that. It feels like, Clark, you're too late, but if you can turn a switch or two and keep that fire, you're going to be fine at Vanderbilt.
Yeah, scumbags win. Look at Deion Sanders. Look at Lane Kiffin. I would say Nick Saban in the past, but I really don't think Nick Saban is a scumbag if you really look at the guy. Look at Jeremy Pruitt. The guy could not coach football, but he cheated his ass off and had a top 5 recruiting class before everything fell apart. Cheaters win in college football, and in the past it has been overlooked for a select number of teams. So I think every team that's successful has a little bit of tomfoolery going on, let's say. So it's something to consider.
Yeah, it's definitely, like I said, I like that he's showing fight. To just sum this up as a whole, Vanderbilt is not going to meet expectations that I had for them this year. I am very sad and upset about it. But ultimately, basketball and baseball to look forward to. And I think that this team still could show promise under Clark Lee if he makes the right moves, gets rid of his friends, brings in some guys he disagrees with, bring in some guys that maybe have a different philosophy from him, and get in there, yell at each other for a little while, get some fire, cut each other if you have to, get some blood flowing, and honestly just go. I mean, just go hard. Go hard. Whatever you have to do, just everything I thought of just sounded really bad. So I just go hard. That's all you can do, Clark.
Go hard. That's all you can do, Clark. I agree.
All right. You heard me and Britt. There's the breakdown. Wasn't really much of a breakdown, but it's more than in the past. The past 2 weeks, I've just been too sad. This week, I at least dove in a little bit. Moving on, Tennessee had a bye week. This past week, hopefully they were able to get healthy. All the great things you do on the bye, rest up, get rejuvenated for the rest of your season. Tennessee now takes on the Texas A&M Aggies in Knoxville this Saturday evening. Britt?
Tennessee, coming off the bye week, had some guys that needed to rehab. Cooper Mays was absolutely gassed against South Carolina, so I'm glad that he'll have a week to kind of adjust himself if he is healthy and get some conditioning in, because that man was wore out after the first drive of the game. Dante Thornton, a guy that wasn't dressed out last week, should be back according to Josh, so definitely needed with Brew McCoy going down at that wide receiver position. Texas A&M coming off an emotional loss against Alabama. I thought that Jimbo Fisher looked pretty bad coaching, especially in the fourth quarter. Just some head-scratching decisions. Mario Cristobal definitely bailed him out by looking a lot stupider than him. But Jimbo is a guy that, after Jameis Winston, has sucked. The COVID year doesn't count, where A&M finished 5th, I think. Outside of the Jameis Winston years, Jimbo's been terrible. Especially since coming to A&M, he just has not been impressive. Tennessee and Josh Heupel, well, really just Josh Heupel. He is 7-1 as a head coach coming off the bye week. This is a really good test for Tennessee. This is probably the best defensive line Tennessee has played thus far. Florida doesn't count because it's Florida. But UT is ranked 23rd in total defense. I just wanted to add that. Just a really good test. We haven't seen Tennessee play a fantastic offensive game based off of what we got used to last year. So we need to see Joe Milton be efficient. We want to see the offense run smoothly, and we need our defense to play like they did last week. They look lights out against South Carolina. I'm excited. Checker Neyland, CBS game. Sorry for you boys sitting at home. You have to listen to Gary Danielson for 4 hours. But I do have some keys to this game. And these 3 keys, you look like you had something to say.
I was gonna throw something in before we got to keys, if that's okay.
Let's do it. Let's go.
Also, I didn't give my key takeaways for Vanderbilt versus Florida, but that's okay. I can do it when we get back to Vanderbilt in just a minute. Yeah, first of all, looking at this game, I think the very first thing you have to say about Texas A&M's season, I'm not near as hard on Jimbo this year. They lost their starting quarterback. I do think that matters a whole lot in Connor Wayman or however you say his last name, Brett. I don't know if you know how to actually pronounce it.
That sounded good.
Connor Wayman, I believe, did get hurt. Max Johnson is now their starter. Last week against Bama, he went 14 of 25 for 239 yards, a tutty, and a pick. So, he's been all right so far. The week before that, they played Arkansas, and in that game, he went 17 of 28 for 210, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. So, his stats right off the bat in his last 2 SEC games, they don't blow you away. It looks they've been enough to get the job done against Arkansas, and then just came up short against Bama. I think this game intrigues me a lot because A&M has shown to have a solid defense at times, and I don't have where they're standing in defensive ranks.
They're at 36, 19.8 points per game.
Perfect. They held they had a really bad outing against Miami when they lost 48-33. And then they lost to, obviously, Bama last week. But this game intrigues me because I don't know whether to say I think this is going to be a low-scoring game, which is something I don't know how UT fans will feel if this game is 21-17, or 20-17 or something crazy low. Just they haven't seen a game like that since Heupel's been there. So I think it intrigues me in the beginning just to not really know how to feel about it. And I guess that's what I wanted to get in was this game just intrigues me a lot on what the score is going to be. And I do have a score prediction, but it's just like, it could be totally wrong. And I wouldn't be very surprised.
Yeah, if you look at defensive ratings, like I said, A&M is 36th in the nation. Tennessee is at 23rd, giving up 17.8 points per game. Offense-wise, Tennessee has a 24 ranked offense, and Texas A&M has the 28th ranked offense. Tennessee is favored. They opened at 3. They're at 3.5 now, but that checks out. I think Neyland Stadium is worth 3 points, but I think this is a pretty evenly matched game. I think Josh Heupel is a better coach than Jimbo Fisher, but I think that Texas A&M has more talent overall and more depth than Tennessee. And I could be wrong. I haven't watched much of Texas A&M, but just looking at their past recruiting classes, that does seem to be the case. Tennessee still has a lot of questions as far as consistency. We still haven't really figured out, are we good at defense? Do we suck at defense? Our offense is kind of a little bit more established as just being kind of taking a step back from last year. But, I mean, you've got Alabama next week, the third Saturday, and I would really like for Tennessee to answer some questions this week. That would be very nice. But being at home in Neyland Stadium is huge. I mean, I don't think it could be stated enough. The atmosphere against South Carolina definitely played a big role.
Yeah, I agree. Obviously, playing in Neyland, it's going to be loud. It's going to be rowdy with all the UT fans. I think that's definitely worth 3 points in my opinion, especially in college football and just the atmosphere that you're going to have in Knoxville. Let's get in our keys. Let's get in our keys. I'll let you go first. It is your team.
These 3 keys are the most cliche football keys you will ever hear in your life, but they pertain to Tennessee perfectly. Number 1, win the line of scrimmage. Tennessee found their rotation against South Carolina with their best 5, going up against a very talented defensive line with Texas A&M. It's going to be a tough battle. You've only allowed 1 sack per game. That needs to continue. If Tennessee gives up 1 sack in this game, I will be thrilled. On the other side, your defensive line has been your best unit overall. I mean, you're leading the country in sacks, and you're right up there in tackle for loss. And well, that was before this Saturday that we didn't play. I don't know if that's still the case, but they've been definitely a really solid unit. Your defensive line, your front 7 as a whole. Kind of piggybacking off of that, we've got to be able to run the ball. Tennessee's offense runs well when Tennessee runs well. Jalen Wright, Jabari Small, Dylan Sampson, have got to have solid games. The run game just does so much for the pass game, and that's really what Josh Heupel has shown us the past 2.5 years, that he wants to be able to run the ball first, for sure. And number three, the most cliche of all, we need to win the turnover battle. Hasn't really been an issue this year, but Joe Milton cannot have 2 interceptions this week like he did last week. Just playing a better offense overall. Your defense is going to need as much help as they can get, and you just can't afford to have 2 interceptions against this A&M team if you're Joe Milton.
Britt, I like that. I like that a lot. I was going to preface key number one is Tennessee O-line. Hold up. Texas A&M, you may not know this, had 5 sacks, if I recall correctly, against Alabama.
They do.
So looking at that early, you're thinking, Bama, I don't know that much about Bama's offensive line, being honest. I haven't prepped for the third Saturday of October yet. I will have it next week. I prepare to prep a lot for that game. So you're looking at them, though. They've got 7, 9, 10. They got 12 sacks on the year for Texas A&M. So they've done their defensive line has done a solid job, causing some problems back there. And the last thing you need is Joe Milton being just sporadic early on and just throwing deep balls and chucking them wherever. So that's the last thing you need. So number one, O-line, hold up. Key number two is, simply put, Kamal Hadden. Kamal Hadden, I've been told you're good. I've been told you're great. You need to step up. I want to see it this week. I'll be watching the game, so I want to see how Kamal Hadden plays this week. I'm gonna make him a key to this game because I was told I gave him too much crap. He has played better than expected for Tennessee this year, at least from what I expected of him. Key number three is Joe Milton. It's hard to not put Joe Milton in there if you're me. I think that Joe Milton is holding the keys to this Tennessee team. They'll go as he goes. Joe Milton's, just like Britt said, he's going to have to take care of the football, and that was really my biggest take, was just take care of the football. I just didn't want to say that because Britt said turnover battle. But yeah, it's one of those things. He's got to take care of the football. I think if UT doesn't have any turnovers in this game, you have a good chance to win. So Joe Milton take care of the football. O-line keeps him upright. Then I think UT's going to have a pretty good shot to win this game.
Yeah, and with Joe Milton, I mean, I guess technically he was in my keys. The reason why he's been such a focal point is because we've kind of, I don't really know how to say it, but this team has really kind of went off of his performance. How good Joe performs is how good we look on the scoreboard. I'm starting to shift more to the running game is more important, and therefore the offensive line kind of dictates the game more, because Joe Milton has he's shown that he's going to allow the running game to affect his play, and he's going to allow the offensive line to affect his play. He's not going to go above and beyond and say, we can't run the ball, I don't care. I'm going to make all the throws, or I don't have time. That's fine. I'm going to make quick decisions and quick throws. He hasn't really shown that. He's just shown that he's hot and cold. He just kind of ebbs and flows with however the running game and his protection is in front of him, instead of him standing out, which I don't know. I don't know if that's not a good thing, that it's not all on Joe Milton, because Joe Milton under pressure hasn't really been fantastic.
I will say that Britt, I think, in my opinion, got nitpicky there with Joe Milton. 98% of quarterbacks are not good without a run game. 90%-ish. I said 98. That might be too high, but 90%-ish are not good without a running game. Look throughout the NFL if you don't believe me. Like, just pointing to the Bills, for example. Every time they get in the playoffs, what happens? They lose. They haven't had a running game. Tannehill for the Titans struggles when they can't get the running game going. It's just kind of how it is throughout.
Okay, I don't know. Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, I cannot hear you, so I don't know what the deal is there. But Tennessee fans, and myself included, we've definitely been hard on Joe Milton. We've definitely been more prone to blame him than we have, I'll say, Hendon Hooker. I mean, we really blamed quarterbacks before Hendon Hooker. But we've definitely been hard on Joe Milton, and maybe I was being a little bit nitpicky there, but he is so important to this offense that when things are going wrong, he's just so easy to point to.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's going to be like that
I
too,
can't
just
hear
based
you.
off his history. You're going to have that too. Technical difficulties. So since that is happening, let's take a break here. Little break. Go get you a beverage. Go get you a nice little something to eat, and we'll come back in just a second. Welcome back in. After some technical difficulties, but we need to have a nice little break anyway, so no big deal. Basically, we're done with we're wrapping up the Tennessee preview, Tennessee and Texas A&M preview there. Only thing that's left, Britt, score prediction. In Neyland, CBS game. I know you're excited. Atmosphere, I'm sure, will be great. What are you thinking?
Tennessee wins this game 24-23.
Britt, listen to my low score prediction.
Tennessee wins this game 24-23. I think the defense makes some big stops and forces field goals.
Wins this game. Okay. There is Britt's score prediction. By the way, the over-under in this game is 55.5. I also thought that was interesting. Normally it's a little low for a Tennessee game. Honestly, under Heupel from what we've seen in the past. But yeah, my score prediction, little different from Britt's, not much. We're kind of on the same wavelength. I've got the Tennessee Vols 28, Texas A&M Aggies 24. I like the Vols in this game too. I think that both teams are pretty similar as far as where I would like kind of rank them in the SEC. I would put Tennessee maybe a little bit above middle of the pack, and A&M somewhere in the middle of the pack, maybe a little bit above too. But I like Tennessee in this game. It's in Neyland, and you're coming off a heartbreaking loss. I don't know. I just don't think A&M can handle it. So Tennessee wins 28-24.
Moving on. First of all, very excited about Tennessee's game this week. I think it'll be a great test. But we just talked about that, so I'll move on. Vanderbilt.
I'm so excited for our game this weekend.
Vanderbilt is playing Georgia. I'm interested to see how long this preview will be.
Less than 5 to 6 minutes. In my opinion, listen, it's sad. We always give keys to victories. We give key takeaways. There is no keys to victory in this game. There's keys to the game. That's it. I love Trevor. Trevor said that on the Door Report, and I completely agreed. There is no really winning this game. Georgia is way more talented than you. They have a way better coaching staff than you. Yeah, it just stinks when you have absolutely zero hope that you can win this game. It's terrible. Looking at it though, when you're just looking at this game from the outside in, you think this is a blowout, and I agree. So I'm just gonna get straight into my keys to the game. First of all, key number 1, once again, I'm going to quote TDR. Key number 1 is everybody stay healthy. Simply, everybody stay healthy. Literally, nobody get hurt. Please, God, nobody get hurt. If we even want to have a glimpse of a win the rest of the season, none of the important guys, none of the key guys can get hurt. So please, God, everybody stay healthy. Key number 2 is, man, put 3 guys on Brock Bowers. Literally, just don't let me watch Brock Bowers go for 200. Like, please, I'm begging. Just put as many dudes as we have to on him. Second of all, my third key, blitz every down. Send 6 or 7 guys every time. And just say, Carson Beck, you're gonna make probably easy throws, but I want you to think about them. I want you to be making them quick, knowing exactly where to go with the football. Put a lot of pressure on Carson Beck. You haven't seen a lot out of him yet, although he's coming off his best performance against Kentucky, where he looked pretty damn good. Other than that, he's been nothing but average, and he's got an elite talent pool around him. So I think it's good, or I think it's very reasonable to say that he's going to look really good a few games, just because of the talent around him. So that's the keys there. Britt, do you have any keys to this game, man?
Yes, I do. Key number 1, go for every 4th down.
I actually agree.
Don't kick any field goals. There is no reason to be conservative in this game at all. No reason to be conservative. Key 2, don't get anybody hurt. That's kind of obvious. And key number 3, don't show anything creative offensively. Save it for Auburn, a
Joey
game that's
Lynch
winnable.
wouldn't do anything creative regardless. So that's that. Key number 3 is safe. We're good on key number 3. We will do that.
Yeah, I was feeling that as I was saying that. But if you do have something that you're saving for your 8th game of the season, let's just go ahead and push it off to the 9th game.
Yeah. It's yeah, Joey Lynch. What a travesty. Score prediction. If Georgia wants to score 90, they will. With that being said, Kirby Smart is still for some reason mad that we beat his ass in year 1. In Georgia, may I remind you, Kirby Smart, for some reason, I hope you're listening to this. So he's still mad about it, and he just never calls off the dogs, and he doesn't take out the starters until like late in the 3rd for some unknown reason, and then even their second strings whooping us. So it doesn't really matter. Georgia 63, Vanderbilt 0.
I was gonna say 42-14.
That's being so nice. That's no, I don't see that happening. But
A nice guy.
yeah, maybe. Yeah, I mean that's really all I have on the Vanderbilt game. It's gonna be hard to go to this game. I mean, I'll be there because that's what I do, but it's just that doesn't mean that it's not frustrating, and I don't want to like die the whole time that I'm driving up there and driving home. Anyways, who cares about any of that? I have to apologize actually to the people. I'm going to out myself hard right here. Until last night, I had not hit a bet on the weekend when I came on this podcast and said that I loved all the bets and I was him and I had all these bets laid out. I picked, I want to say, it was 29 games I picked. Now, two of those were an 8-pick parlay, so kind of, obviously a lot have to hit. All 8 have to hit for it to hit, so kind of unfair. And then I bet on the same games in a few different times. But my point being, I bet on 29 games. I did not have a single win, and I had a net loss of $362 last weekend. So that is just me being completely honest with you. Luckily, on Monday Night Football, I did win $120. So my weekend, I lost like $240 after betting on some NFL games. But I just wanted to apologize. Last weekend, I went 2 for 4. Vanderbilt, I had them. I couldn't remember on this podcast. In my parlay, I had them plus 24, but I couldn't. Did I have them plus 24? So
yeah, and if that would have hit, I would have protested.
Yeah, so plus 24 did technically hit. It was technically in the sports books. It's nothing. I don't know how me and Britt are going to roll that. Britt, we just need to go ahead and talk about it right now.
I think no more alternate spreads.
No more.
Now you can say, okay, like this is the line, but on the side, I like this alternate spread.
So no more alternates.
But if we're going to put it in the contest, we need to.
So you can't take any money lines either. Then.
I mean, I don't think we have. I think the only time you do money line is if we both agree. Okay, that's fine.
Yeah. Well, for the record, I think betting alternate spreads is by far your best option.
It is, but we're competing, and it's not fair if you do an alternate spread and I don't.
I'm going to argue with Britt when we get off air, but that's not the point. So my only question is, did I go 2 for 4 last week? And
you got 2 points.
Okay. So but I need to know for my percentage, did I go 2 for 4 or 2 for 5? Can I say 2 for 4? I'll pick an extra game this week. I'll go 6 games this week.
Percentage doesn't matter. We're just doing points.
Okay. All right. I got 2 points then. So the other one's fine. Okay. Here's my 5 this week. I actually feel way worse about this week than last week. And so that has to mean great things. So, because last week I felt so good. Let's start off hot. Let's start off with the team we talked about on this podcast. Give me the Tennessee Vols -2. Yeah, you can get in right now. Like Britt said, it's up to 3.5 as of this morning. Opened up as like a 2.5. So that's where I got in. Tennessee -2. I had the Georgia Bulldogs. These are the 2 locks of the week. Georgia Bulldogs -31, Tennessee -2. I think both of these hit. I actually really like these 2 games. With my luck, neither one of them will hit. So maybe not. But Tennessee -2, Georgia -31. That's the first 2 games, 2 teams that we covered on this podcast. Next game is Florida Atlantic at South Florida. I like South Florida -1.5. It's basically a money line pick. Do it however you want it. But South Florida minus 1.5. Wisconsin is playing Iowa. I took Wisconsin minus 5.5. Iowa lost Cade McNamara. You know he's not playing. That was a really big blow to them. Their backup quarterback sucks. And it's at Wisconsin, so I like Wisconsin, by more than 6 or more. Last game, Washington State. If you bet with me on this podcast last week, you know that Washington State lost by 8, and we had them minus or plus 7.5. That sucks. But we're going right back to them. Washington State is taking on Arizona, and I got Washington State minus 3.5. So just to run through those real quick one more time: Tennessee minus 2, Georgia Bulldogs minus 31, South Florida minus 1, Wisconsin minus 5.5, and Washington State minus 3.5 are my 5. That parlay comes out to plus 1,128 odds. I bet $8.88 on it. Payout $110. There it is.
All right. Last week, we both got 2 points. I'm up to 13. Joseph is at 19. Just wanted to add that in there for those keeping count at home. Kentucky minus 2.5 at home against Missouri. I think that'll be a good game. I was going to say I'm excited to watch it, but I probably won't watch it. Indiana at Michigan. Give me over. And by over, I mean under 46.5. Michigan loves to win games 35-7, 35-10. So I like the under 46.5 in that game against Indiana. Give me North Carolina minus the 3.5 points at home against Miami. Miami sucks. Their quarterback or their coach is an idiot. And North Carolina's really good. I think 3.5 is not a big enough line. Give me the Florida Gators on the road at South Carolina plus 2.5 points. In reading that out loud, it sounds pretty stupid, but I'm going to roll with it because it's in the orange folder. And then I like Oregon. This is the game of the week. Oregon at Washington. Give me over 67. Over 67 in that game in Seattle.
I like that.
That's
that
it.
Washington-Oregon game is going to be a great game. Two great coaches. So that I think that is going to be a masterclass. Also, if you didn't watch the game this weekend and you're a college football fan, go back and watch Texas, Oklahoma. That is 2 great offensive minds just dialing it up. You got Venables dialing it up, and you got Coach Sark dialing it up. It was a masterclass of coaching by both sides. Really enjoyed that game. Just the offensive play calls I thought were great.
Is Venables calling offense?
Yeah, I think so for Oklahoma.
Yeah, because he's a defense guy.
I believe that's what they said on the broadcast. Let me double check that.
He could have been. I had to work. I didn't watch the game.
Oh, you need to go back and watch it. It was. I'm telling you, if you're a college football fan and you didn't watch that game, it really was. It was. I really enjoyed it.
But we have another great slate of games coming up here. This is week what?
Okay.
6?
Yeah. And also Oklahoma, I'm gonna change my respect because I don't really know who was calling the plays. But Jeff Lebby, some of y'all probably know him because he was at Ole Miss. He is the offensive coordinator at Oklahoma, so give him some credit. Whoever was calling the plays, Venables, Lebby, I don't know, but one of those guys was coaching great. And then of course Coach Sark at Texas was dialing it up as well. So really good game. We're here.
I have to mention something.
Okay.
There's a board bet on.
I was going to say that too. I have that on my notes.
We are on board watch. Who will be the starting quarterback versus Texas A&M?
I'm guessing Joe Milton.
I'm guessing so.
And that's is that what is our other board bet, Mr. Dillard? Is there another one on there?
Our other bet is Auburn finishing top 4 in the SEC West.
Got it. Man. Man, what two great board bets. I am going to lose my board bet to Britt this weekend. You can go ahead and just write that down. Nico's not trotting out on that field as the starter. So with that being said, Britt, where do I have to take you?
What?
Where do I have to take you? I have to take you to like a steakhouse or something.
Oh no! Oh, I
That
don't.
board bet.
We can talk about it. Auburn's
Okay.
5th in the West right now.
Okay, that is really good for me because we're gonna owe each other a steak. So that's great.
Thank you for listening, everybody. This is
yes.
episode 101.
Episode 101. Thank y'all so much for listening. Anchor down. Don't get hurt.
Go Vols. Hurt somebody. That was weird.
Hurt somebody.